Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. That should work. I should use the Stoney's Discord calls me out before mine does. So I haven't automated anything because I'm lazy. Actually, quite the opposite. Okay. Okay. That working? Yep. Sounds right. So, continuing on my journey of trying to reassemble the query side of my application so I can actually bring up games again. Face little fly. We need to recover some extra pieces here. So, what I've done so far is I have rebuilt the game's pieces in the ViewDB. They're slightly different, but not too different. So my thought so far is what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassemble the tables with their essentially with their current structure from the main DB, but then enrich the data through pre-calc, etc. So as I change pricing, recalculate the pricing on games, etc. Keep the existing relations in this SQL database and see how it goes. Realistically, all I'm trying to do here is avoid having to do views and whatnot to handle calculation of latest pricing and all those sorts of things. So I kind of speed up those pieces rather than necessarily speeding that up. Hello, maybe. How are you doing? How are you today? It's good. I've had the last couple of weeks, well, the last 3 weeks now, I've just found myself without any motivation, which is not good. But it's meant that I've just spent time hanging out with my wife and daughter a bit more, playing some games. That's what you saw me doing on Saturday and a bit yesterday. Town to City is actually a very uh, uh, enjoyable game. Yeah, yeah, a little. Um, it's why I'm still doing this because I don't really care about when I get this done, and I'm not really pushing myself. If I start on Liquid Sky again, right now I'm going to be in a position of just a little bit more pressure for myself because I want to make that something better. And I'm using this to learn some stuff, right? To reflect on whether I should or shouldn't do this. Well, I am doing this regardless. I've done too much to not do this now, but learning what I need to learn there. So, well, I do for me. So let's. I think reviews just need lifting entirely. So what I'm doing is I'm building a view version of the database, which may right now look a lot like the exact same database, the exact same table structure, um, but it won't have all the same table structure. I'll do pre-calculation of averages. I'll do it gives me the flexibility of having this data in a slightly different format. That means that I don't have to create views for the data. Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm trying to get this to a point where I can use it. That's the point. So the reason I went down this path, not justifying, just explaining. Oh, did I really just close that? I really just closed that. um, Hi Zons, how you doing? Good morning. The reason I went down this path is because I want to deploy the application, right? I want to deploy it to Azure or something like that, right? But I want to keep the costs low. And in my typical way of developing, right, I'm breaking these all out as services. So games, IGDB, price charting, these can all be separate APIs. And I have a gateway. Well, that ramps up the cost because I've got to create more things, I've got to deploy more things, it becomes more complicated. So what I've done is I've created a module, a monolith from it, and these are now modules inside of this. So games, IGDB, price chart, and query, yes, they can be run independently, but they're now all loaded into this application API, and I know I only need to deploy this one service, right? Even the background service for importing the data into the QueryDB is handled in there. So I can see what that looks like as a deployed service. And then if it gets, like, if I open this up to other people and it gets a little bit more traction, then I could potentially say, oh, well, now I need to break out IGDB as its own service because it's being hit heavier or price charting or whatever. And I can break them out as independent services without actually doing very much to the application. And the application can come apart piece by piece. So that modular monolith concept working for me. Value increases when you do things you enjoy. So we'll see how this goes. That's the point. But right now, what happens is each API has a modular extensions, which is what is required to get that service up and running in terms of another website. And then it still has a program CS, which does call the same piece. So this can start up independently if it needs to. Hey, Lauren, how you doing? So yeah, that is the way that's being built right this second. So it can be independent or it can be um, grouped up together as a modular monolith. I'm doing good. It is Monday. Long week ahead. Okay. Showing a Tumblr game project I'm making because of balancing market needs versus just interest. What do you mean? Am I reading another chat? Oh, you mean looking at my phone? uh, oh, um, you read out messages that aren't in chat. Gonna confuse me. Um, Zons, I mean, if you're doing something purely for the money, then and you don't have the passion for it, that's going to show through. You know, we have to look at a ton of AAA games that are clearly just money grabs, right? Um, I think, you know, build the game you want to build and then see if it can be something that other people want to play. But you could also easily just throw passion to something that doesn't sell. Yeah, yeah. Uh, so that's because I don't have the models, specifications. What I'm trying to do is reassemble enough to get this to query the data. Um, I'm basically rebuilding the view side of the data. Market for all type of games, all about finding your audience, right? Yeah, I mean, I'd say being aware of um, how's it? Just because there's no existing market for a game doesn't mean it's not a game that people won't like once they find it. Um, I mean, look at people like Peter Molyneux, who developed all sorts of crazy games that no one had ever seen before, but once people did see, they wanted, right? Um, so build stuff that makes you happy. I think the happiness shows through as well in the end result. I really do think it does. Um, fetch games like this. So here, what we could do is again, can I enable full text? So, oh no, fetch games like this does have some level of, yeah, I didn't want to change anything. It does have some level of script view searchable games, because searchable games is a view because it uses a soundx, which is a function that I created that just trims certain things out to make the name friendlier, which ultimately ends up finding games of the same name almost. But it does do a decent enough job to start with. So searchable games is a thing. Games list. I'm basically reassembling a project from just ripping all the guts out of it and all back together. Okay, result set is games API, result set, result models. Little, where do you come from? Little fly. Refactor this, adjust the namespace. Install package fast endpoints. There's like a little fly because so I have a screen and an air conditioner with a pipe going out the window. But what it means is little flies and stuff get in here quite a lot because it's not a perfect seal, which drives me crazy. Okay, that's building at least. So that will go. Yeah, all integration models query Did I reverse that? Integration models. Where are you from? You should be query. Properties. Ah, there you go. Query the application. Oh, I won't be poisoning my dogs anytime soon. I'm not spraying a lot of stuff just to just to get rid of a little fly. I can deal with a little fly eventually. Let's get some sugar water with some vinegar or something in it. uh, okay, so that is there. Game detail. Let's remove. No, let's not remove them. Let's find out where those models are. Reassemble that one. Query. Platforms, models. Did I really not share these? No, I did. Games, models. Wishes. Seem to not have shared everything somewhere. Profiles, price charting, platforms. So this is going to look like chaos, right? It's going to look like chaos because I am, rather than, don't think that I used two usages. Okay. Query API, query application, share details, refactor. I'm pulling components that I built in a completely different way across rather than trying to rewrite them again, or rather than do this bit by bit, which might have actually been smarter. I'm gonna remove that for a second because I think that's going to be that. They don't have a nested relationship there anymore. Trying to cut the speed up. Build stuff that makes you happy. Yeah, I would honestly I honestly believe that if you build something that you enjoy, the likelihood is other people will enjoy it. And okay. So rather than trying to build this piecemeal, I'm going to build this all in one go, and just keep rebuilding until I know that it's in a good shape, and then delete the pieces I know I don't need anymore. So how do we do? Okay, so do this. Now reviews are going to be the same thing. So not CDC, DBO, tables, reviews. Select star. Into query.reviews. from dbo.reviews. Wow. That should just create the structure over here. Yeah. So we'll go for the beginnings of it so far. Now, the challenge to doing this is I've got to be careful I don't just recreate the schema, right? Because that's then no benefit whatsoever. I might as well just left it in the same database and just create a separate query against it. Now, there are things that make it worthwhile, such as calculation of statistics. They can happen independently of the WriteDB review. This is a straight lift, so I'm not even going to bother. Games domain, entities, review. Right now it's a straight lift over to the new one. And that is there. Reviews, configuration, again, pretty much a straight lift. And integration domain entities. I didn't rename these. That's why. Query dot infrastructure. Query dot application. I think I created application and API separately. I think these, yeah. Query dot infrastructure. What services? So a lot of what I'm doing right now is not necessarily, I know that it might seem wasted effort, but I'm really using this as an exercise in understanding how I might do something, not necessarily whether I should do something, which is okay, right? If you're going to learning on your own projects is definitely more useful. You don't get to learn that if you're working and you're trying to build software as a job, you don't often get the time to sit and tinker with design or getting by identifier spec. I think that spec add new game. Okay, so that is duplicated. We'll worry about that later, but for right now, query specifications, refactor, adjust namespaces. Did I really not? I really not rename that one? I didn't. Query, not the main. I skipped over it. I went there, then there. Okay, that's that. Searchable game is going to be its own thing in a second. We'll get to that here. Just let's improve this. Copies on games we're going to get to in a second. I don't think I actually need that one. So searchable, that's game. That one. I'm just trying to get rid of the build errors from the ones I can control first, and then we'll worry about the others. So yeah, what I'm building here is a query model of the right schema, which seems like a lot more work than it needs to be, right? I could just query the same DBO. But one thing I've not had the chance to do in a work environment fully is prove this concept out. So using CDC is the way of doing this. I'm using CDC against price charting and DBO to track changes into these tables. So this CDC schema will track all the price chart and DBO changes. I can add new tables later on. I'm also tracking this IGDB cache, and the game's getting imported into it. So as I link a game through IGDB in the UI, that will update a copy in here, which will then duplicate that information out here and into a service that's picked up through CDC, and I'll be able to enrich the data on here. So, oh, you've linked it to this game, therefore, you've got so this will get a game ID attached to it. This right now is the IGDB game, but I'm going to link the IGDB game in the IGDB service, and that will export with this. Sorry, my brain's I'm running ahead and jumping all over the place on what I need to do because there's so many different parts moving, which normally I wouldn't advise because I'm changing so much in one go. But I don't see any benefit in not doing this way right this second. It just takes more time. So I am building the query. Here I'll be able to assemble all that information. So this query specific version will have things like the associated platform or the associated details like the synopsis, etc. But it will also have things like the ratings and the genres and keywords, etc. So I can use them in the query. Therefore, I can search and say, hey, find me all platformers. Now, I could have achieved that if I'd have merged the IGDB data and the price charting data into the same database. Ignore these two tables. These tables will go away shortly. These are the backing tables that I currently have in my existing schema. I'm using these just so I don't lose that information. But the benefit of doing this is that the query will be able to bring all those things together. So now I can say, hey, go and find me all platformers that have increased in price by more than 50% over the past year or whatever. I can do analytics on the platform by bringing all this information together. Now, I could do that using one database, but now my query concerns override my write concerns. So adding the data becomes more costly. Storing the data for the query side of things becomes more costly, and overall just trying to keep those concerns separate. Also, price charting and IGDB stuff is not a core piece of my data. My data is, hey, I have this game. I bought it for this much. I bought it here. Here's some notes on it, etc. Here's my review of it. Those are things that I kind of control. Those price charting data stuff, if I make it a tightly coupled integration with my data and they change their API or I lose access to it or whatever, then I've got to figure out what that means for me in my data. If I lose access to price charting right now, all the data as it currently stands stays the same and nothing moves forward, but I only have to concern myself with what I'm querying, not necessarily what I'm writing. So I can still have the application work and potentially change out where I get the pricing from. So yes, I'm trying to use this to understand some challenges and understand some benefits of doing it this way. So it may not end up being perfect, but it will at least demonstrate the problems for me. And if you're interested, you can access this code. All this code is there. Okay, so let's get moving on this one. Fetch games like this. So we want searchable game. Now, searchable game is a little different, right? Because this becomes query instead of that. This becomes create function query.getSoundX. When you want to capture changes in database, your naive way of doing this is after trigger. CDC is better, but the tools have different guarantees. I used Debezium, but it was a solution because that legacy system didn't have domain integration events. Source code. Definitely explicit source code for the events. Hey, and how you doing? Yeah. So obviously in Liquid Sky, I'm using explicit domain events to trigger the integration, and I'm pushing them to Kafka, etc., to produce the same result. In this, I'm experimenting with what it looks like to break it out into schemas and to use those tools. So I'm using CDC for SQL, and then using monitoring for Mongo, and the API is the same. So yeah, so the CDC extension stuff that I built, the same API. So now Mongo and SQL Server, so it looks the same. Now the differences are that the MongoDB version is live. You can't, if you turn it off and then make some changes, you will not capture those changes, whereas the CDC version will do that. But yeah. And if anyone's interested in seeing what that looks like, I believe I pushed the latest version. Yes, I did. That's what the latest version that looks like. It is slightly, well, no, it is very under spec because it's just serving my need right this second. But ultimately, what it does is you have the concept of a publisher. You set up your change monitoring. You say with handlers, you add the pieces you want, and now this handler, which would be inherited from the right type, will get that data, and basically you configure the tables, and now you'll get told when things change. It does work, and it publishes to those handlers, so the handler just gets the object mapped to its type that you're saying here. So this is there, so it will give you this object. It does mean some it does mean some serious duplication though. But in Liquid Sky, I achieved that by having a core library with yeah, a core library with all the models. Ultimately, with Liquid Sky, I do want to look at Kafka schema and see if I can finally get Kafka schema in there and see what that means in terms of shared modeling. And also schema gives me the ability to have a service update out of sequence, because I could deploy an updated schema to the producers and have the services that are receiving those messages complete any existing messages before receiving new ones, and then switch them over, and they'd start picking up new ones, and there would be no gap in data. I want to do select star in. Do I want select into? So I'm going to take game copies. Now, game copies has a game ID. Reviews. This doesn't mean quite the same thing anymore. I've just inserted them directly. What I've done in the new version is I have created a slightly different linking to try and make sure that the primary key of the ViewDB is not the same ID, which allows me to recreate it, right? If I tightly couple the ID of the view side to the ID of the command side, then I will have a I can't reorganize the data very easily because they are basically the same data just copied. Morning, Dota. So thinking about it, the problem is right now it's going to look really, really um, how do I put it? It's just going to seem like a waste of time doing the way I'm doing it right this second because the query side is going to be almost a pure replica of the command side. That's fine. It can be done. It's fine. However, I think this needs to be. Does the review matter? The review does matter. I'm wondering if this even needs a source ID because it doesn't actually matter what it is. It's just the game that it's attached to. And there can only be one review for one game because it's my game at this point. I'm also not considering what it means to have multiple people logging games for this. If I was contributing to this, what would I work on? Right now, I'm not sure because I'm rebuilding. If I'm honest, once it's really reassembled, yeah, because there's going to be hundreds of files changed because I'm reorganizing the structure of it, which means that it's not probably, yeah. Add a linter to the front end. More than welcome to do that if you want to. Don't forget the front end is being built by pretty much Claude. I've done a lot of this code is done with Claude. I mean, it's entirely up to you if you wanna have a look and see what you want to do. There's nothing. I'm not expecting anything. So, whatever you feel you want to do, if you're interested in. Obviously, the backend code, I would say you probably don't want to pick up until I finish this refactor or redesign. It's not refactor; it's a redesign. Yeah, Rambling Geek. Hello, how you doing? Yeah, and then in a couple of days, hopefully, I've got this back up and running enough that yeah. So I think what we need to do is go and do SQL scripts, generate DDL to clipboard. Oh, why does it have a low level? Why does it have a low level of introspection? Tired. Were you up playing with projects? There you go. Okay. Ashes, welcome in. Thank you very much for the raid. How's it going? What were you working on today? Good. Good. If you want to link to anything, you cannot link to anything. That's the problem. Uh, I wish I could. I wish I could sort of take away that chipping away at my project, get some designs done. Nice. My channel has a lot of restrictions on who can link, so I was about to say, yeah, you can link, but you can't. I know you have a project that is you're in a refactoring. Yes, joy. Those things are fun. Um, well, welcome in. Yeah, I'm currently reassembling my database basically and rebuilding all the code on the back end to break out the query from the command side of things. Um, Experimenting with lots of different things at once. So I get it. Nope, no. Well, this is so the thing I'm working on right now is a library tool for tracking my games collection. And I know projects exist, but obviously it's way more fun to build your own. I've built many versions of this over the years. This is my favorite version yet. I've basically been using AI to generate the front end, which I can't show. Actually, I can show. Uh, I can show. What's it called? UX Pilot. The reason I'm doing it off screen is because it is all white mode, light mode. Sorry, white mode. And I am design, game tracking. That's what I get for saying what I see. So basically, the idea is that I will be able to track my games collection, and it looks very similar to this. I can track my games collection. I can see what games I have. I can see how many copies of the game I have. I'll be able to go in and see the detail, and I'll be joining the price charting data together with IGDB to get enriched page details, and I can add reviews to the games. That's that. That's that. That's that. I can search by. I will be able to group them and track the actual consoles as well. So I do have, obviously, with older hardware, having a few of them is useful. So I do have, a couple of Sega Genesis, a couple of Game Boy Advances, a couple of Super Nintendos. Um, I don't own duplicates of every console, but I do several. Have several of each, and yeah, if only it worked for a generic collection, maybe sold a subscription like Netflix and made billions. Please see Stony Eagle. Um, yeah. So overall, this is what I'm building right this second. You'll be able to group games by console, and yeah, and then I link IGDB and price charting data so I can get an idea of what prices games are going for. And yeah, that is the goal. So what I'm working on right this second is rebuilding the query side of things, trying to assess what data I actually need versus, yeah. So game ID. I don't think I need to create I don't think I need to create a linking table here. I don't need to normalize this anymore. I don't think there's any benefit to a normalization here at this point. However, source ID, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Mm, Now, ultimately, the goal of this project, the goal of this version of this project, for me, is I want to be able to integrate this with my Twitch stream and track playing time and completion. The goal being that when I complete a game, I could write a review for it and I can mark it as completed. I can see my overall completion. That's inspired by another streamer, Stoic Light. He is building a game library as well, but that has things like how many games he's completed in the year and statistics like that, which is pretty interesting. So I'd like to link this and be able to play more games on stream, link the library into the stream. So that would be one of my goals. So then you could look up games played, or you could bring up interactive pieces of the stream. Reminding me of back in the day when there used to be forum signatures with your Xbox Live stats and stuff. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. But I have a collection of over 1,800 games, physical games. We don't count digital collection as games. They can go away at any time. A lot of those games are for more modern consoles, so realistically, playable games is probably not that much. Yeah. The Groove, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Appreciate it. Very much appreciate that. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to join in. The code for all this is available. I am not keeping this closed source. This is the back end piece. And the front end, I keep separate repos. React, I believe. The front end I've actually done, what is it? Client React. The front end I've actually built using pretty much all AI, and it shows. Claude is my friend, but Claude is also the enemy because the code it produces is absolutely horrendous, and I've never done React before. So I started the client side of this with the intent of learning a bit more about React because I've done Angular typically. I wanted to see what React code looked like. And instead, I've learned a lot of lessons about what AI can and cannot do while using that technique. So that's been quite interesting. Do I want source ID? I don't see why I need a source ID on here. I don't care about this particular piece of information. I think that I just need to have the game ID because it's the same result. AI is taking. If we lose our jobs to AI, we will. Uh, we will be living in a much worse place for code. There's so much code being developed using that thought that uh yeah, I feel that there's a big market for people who are comfortable manipulating code bases that have been produced with AI tooling. Um, I think it is a huge mistake for companies to go that path right this second. Select star into query dot game copies from dbo dot game copies. A mess fixing will be the next well-paying job in software dev. Um, I think AI will take the greenfield work for us, but we'll still get to do brownfield dev. I think there's a big market there. Hi, Phil Shamble. How are you? And Tommy, welcome in. How are you? I think it will be bigger than .com bubble. Yeah. Um, I don't think it's going to go away. I think if you've been using the tools, you've realized that on a personal level, it's getting harder to get the value because the credits are disappearing quicker. I've learned some serious lessons around asking Claude to do things as a senior developer. If you look in the client code for this, by the way, there is now agents, and I have an architecture reviewer. Well, you're an expert software architect and design reviewer with deep expertise, and you're a test writer. Putting it into these modes, I'll say, changes a lot of what it'll do. I had the code working, it was fine. I said, hey, please review this as a senior developer, and it suggested all sorts of changes. I then said, please review this as an architect, and it started refactoring things and moving things into abstractions, which means there's some level of like behavioral association with like I don't understand how they are measuring what is good and what is bad. So I think there'll be a lot of mixed code bases. Everyone I've talked to about doing this and saying, hey, try and tell it to do it as a senior developer and see what happens. It changes things. Uh, Now, obviously, because run to run, you can't always guarantee that it's going to be uh, the same. It could be that it's reviewing the code with a different set of paths, etc. Because fundamentally, it's all based on prompts. You change the prompt, you get different output. So yeah, I get the different prompts, but why does it work differently if I tell it to review it as someone? Like, does that mean that there's weighting based upon who you're telling it to run as, or is that just me imagining that it's doing something? I mean, it did do a lot more refactoring and it suggested different patterns, but obviously I'm working on a code base that I've already built. So, and morning trap, by the way. Hello. You get different output. Okay. Multiple agents, different roles, work on the same PR until they're happy. A lot of data centers being built just for AI that don't like both CPUs and those hardware have lifetime as well. Yeah. Different paths to different weights. Okay. It even helps to, for example, have Claude come up with an idea, then ChatGPT to look over it, and then back to Claude to wrap up. Yeah, I have found myself because doing what I've been doing recently, I can run through the credits on Claude so quickly. I'm actually using other LLMs to do all the searching and stuff that I normally do because I don't want to use credits on Claude, which I think is an interesting pattern. So we're going to ChatGPT and Copilot more to ask general stuff of, and then using Claude code to build the client. But I still think there's a lot to be done. I get pilots to use that for info research to save up tokens. Yeah. It is. This isn't going to work properly. Oh, all these rules are going to come across. Although I don't need these rules anymore. So that's interesting. I only need these on the query side of things. So this one's going to be an interesting one. Although I'm looking at setting up my own local AI plus Thea XNG. I don't know if I have. I probably have the hardware to run something, but I don't know if I have. Okay, we don't need pricing right this second this way. The pricing is going to come from a slightly different angle, so we're gonna review that afterwards. But game copy is there. So how's that pronounced? Sounds like something. Oh, just CRXNG. Okay. The assumption that someone, my automatic assumption that it's just someone is going to come up with a quirky name for something. Free and open source meta search engine. Nice. My local AI to that is it could combine all search engine results into one. Ultimately, it's a race to the bottom for model as a service. Models will be largely the same, even when everything becomes fine-tuned multi-model systems. But for automation and real projects, you can't between different models as they will give you different results. Yeah, that is the challenge, right? If I ask the question of one, will another give me, if I head it in a direction, will it give me the same outcome? And obviously it won't. But then again, the same one won't give me the same outcome every time either. So, similar, if you're asking questions, which is normally what I'm doing is I'm using AI in terms of, and I think this is a more common case, is I'm trying to understand how to do something or ask the right questions. So I'm asking it in plain English, which gives me an advantage that search engines haven't had before, right? Because I can use my words and still get to the result, whereas in the past I had to understand a technical component. Now I can understand the technical component because I can ask the questions, and that's where I'm finding the most use from these tools. Stranhorn, good morning. That's why I said real projects in business you can't generally afford the diversity. Yes. Humans in the loop workflows are entirely different. Yeah. Agentic workflows require more predictability and preciseness generally. Yeah. I've seen some of the outcomes of that. Stranhorn, I was looking in your stream yesterday. How did the stream go? I've spent a lot more of my weekends this last couple of weeks hanging out with my wife and daughter. I had the PC on. I saw you were streaming. I joined the stream, hung out for a few minutes, and then, unfortunately, I was hanging out away from the computer. Ask AI in two different conversations, the same prompt and get different results. So even with the same model, just a few minutes later, and yeah, because of that, it's just trying to find. Dukesoft, hello, how are you doing? Brain working on too many things. Pretty good. Found out I can get the duration for ads that are triggered from the event sub, so I might do another stream implementing that. Nice. Nice. Well. Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? It's so I don't think I need searchable game in there anymore. I think I need searchable game in here. Um, yes, models are predictive when they change the seed. If you could change the temperature and lower it, you are more likely to get the same response. So in all honesty, I do naturals. But no matter what, I must admit my output quality could actually increased. I can focus on quality overall. So what I've done with this specifically is I've written the code for the backend. I'm owning this. Where it's speeding me up is not having to worry about this piece. That being said, I think there's a lot of cost to be seen to the quality of this code because I'm speeding myself up. Now, for me, my workflow is generally backend based. I like working on the backend pieces. Not to say I haven't used any tooling to learn some things or to understand some things about things I have done here, but it has allowed me to write this code and get the front end out of the way quicker. So I've been enjoying that workflow in general. Yeah, it's uh, temperature. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we've kind of talked about it in the past, haven't we? Like the unpredictable nature of the results and controlling it. Also, the thing I find difficult is um, seeing a cat, um, when you are asking it to review things, that that positivity, uh, is it positivity bias? It's referred to as is quite when you know something's bad, but it will put a positive spin. So I've used it to review code. I've used it to kind of get an idea of how code's working and the fluff that it feeds out because it's very wordy, right? There's no. I think I'm learning to try and ask more specific questions and narrow what I'm asking it at a time. Because if I say, hey, review this code and assess it for whatever, it won't give me any negatives from it. It will give me potential weaknesses spun as positivity in some ways. So it's kind of difficult. You have to read through a lot of stuff to understand where the problems are. So yeah, concise and critically. Yeah. Um, but I've had mapping. What's mapping for? Let's find out. Let's find out. Review. Let's remove that. Let's remove that. I think we're gonna games. I need AI to summarize the AI output, even sometimes limit to the word count. Mm. Okay, let's remove them. Where's update? Why does game not have updated date? Last updated. That might be a little bit more dangerous. Okay, so let's remove that. Let's remove that for now. They can be null, so that's fine. They can be there. I want to get to compilation. That's the point. Same thing. Can be null, can be null, can be null. If it can be null, let's get rid of it for now. We're gonna add these features back in once I get the UI at least running a little bit. This might be a little bit more harmful. Um, can be null. 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 There we go. Rebuild. That is a style of training and used in larger systems for a different purpose. There are systems that use models to analyze output of some of the model to gauge if the output is proper to share with end user. Wow. Yeah. I think that needs to go. This one needs to go. Refactor, adjust namespaces. I figured that. So this is an interesting one now. Because now the API endpoints are basically being merged into one place. The net result is that I shouldn't have to use the gateway very much. Because essentially everything's going to API and then onto the relevant endpoint, right? Morning, Mojo. How you doing? So working on building back the modular monolith is my games library, right? So in theory, if I get rid of everything but games and start the router, or start the gateway up. Oh, I probably removed too much there. I probably removed, yeah. Let's remove that one. And then let's remove everything but the first route. Then go to, edit configurations, delete, 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 delete. Okay, now go to Aspire app host. And we want to start the gateway. And it relies upon API. Reference. Now, I can get rid of the gateway with a little tweak afterwards, but because everything on the client side is looking for API / whatever, this should result in the same output. Right? I should be able to go and get a list of games. There's going to be some errors. Let's see what happens. Oh. Aspire post. Why do you break? See what happens. As always, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you think this is complete madness, you're more than welcome to share this. I welcome thoughts and opinions, as long as they're constructive. As long as there's a reason for why it's complete madness, not just is complete madness. And again, I'm doing this for the experience, for the understanding of Me out then. um, where are you breaking? What are you breaking over? Value cannot be null. Connection string. API gateway. Oh, I know why. So when I set this up on its own, we have the monitoring there, but I'm actually running it through the application. So everything that's in here needs to be in there. So let's paste that in there. Let's take, oh, that's horrible. Them two out there. Yes, they're the same connection strings, but I can condense them later. We've got price charting snapshot and games. I've got to build all the handlers to insert this data now. That's going to take its sweet time. Luckily, because I'm using almost the exact same schema, I can replicate a lot of it. But we're still going to have to build more tools. I'm still a long way from done here to repair this. Had I started this path before getting to where I had, that would have been smarter. But it was a decision triggered by the fact that I was building a lot of views and I was building a lot of queries to try and gain insight into the pricing and into the things. And I was like, oh well, now I can't say, hey, what is the average price of a platform game, or what console is the best for this type of platform game, or there's all sorts of analytics and statistics that I could gather had I combined all the data into one. And again, I don't want to blur what is the core of my data with those sorts of things. So that's why the query. So yes, is a choice. But I've seen third-party integrations over many years just create challenges for applications to the point where I'm really interested in the idea of separating out the concerns. Not even third-party integrations, behaviors like reporting or analytics in general being built off the same schema that is being used to serve the everyday. I've seen the cost of adding in those layers over years, and the oh well, you can't change this because it might break this. Oh, you've got to you've got to keep this schema intact because we use that for reporting, but it's not good for the overall application. So refactoring becomes more intimidating. Breaking this up like this, if I need to refactor the behavior of changing my data, I can do so and understand the consequences more directly because I can actually trace through all those individual pieces. Oh, I know that there's a knock-on effect of changing this schema because it's got a concern here. How badly does it affect it? Oh, I need to do this and this and this. So although it doesn't remove the impact, it makes the impact more transparent by having that ability to yeah, let's see. Let's see if it runs. It should error on most API. Well, it will error on all API endpoints except potentially the list. So the games list may actually load. No promises. Uh, uh, localhost 55173. My collection. Oh, helps if you're logged in. Oh, 502. Uh, Profile stats. Bad gateway. API games. Oh, of course it's going to be a 502. Because I'm pointing at application. What is this going to point to? This is going to be 7261 now. So my gateway address games API. That's not going to be games API. So that's using the naming from Aspire, which is pretty cool. I forgot it was doing that, if I'm honest. So what is this going to be then? This is going to be application API. It's going to be the name here. Let's see what happens. $500. No handler registered for message like fetch or games query. That is because fetch all games. No handle type registered. So we got here. Uh, so in theory, this starts up and adds application, right? So it should add the mediator thing. But I feel that what's happening is this is being overridden. And that's the challenge. So add mediator. Let's have a look at what it offers. I think I need to figure out a way of making sure all the mediator handlers register. Options goes to options dot. Yeah. I think the problem is one of all the mediators needing to be registered, and I think that is lacking here. So when I include all the APIs, that's great, but the if that's the last one in, so it doesn't fail the dependency injection, but I don't feel it's registering all the things. So let's see if we can't builder dot services dot add dot add mediator options goes to options dot. Oh, you see how there's 3 different. Oh. Because add mediator has been registered by all of these things. So each one of these things, this one doesn't actually add an application yet, so this would cause the same problem. But each one of these has its own add application. Each one says add mediator, which means that that's been added. This library has been added by every single one of these things. However, actually, let's put a breakpoint on this one and see what has been registered with iSender. Because the way that this mediator library works is it uses SourceGen. Actually, I should be able to see that. Oh, CodeGen, sorry, not SourceGen. Same thing. Analyzers. Yeah, you see, this isn't built any code out, so that means that the code in here, source generators, yeah. So the mediator implementation has been built here, but this one now has the design challenge. So the challenge is one of I have what is essentially 4 different APIs that I'm merging into one consolidated API as part of this modular monolith. I do want to keep the behavior of if I split any one of them out or I run it independently, I should be able to test it independently without having it as part of the monolith. Again, independent databases, independent behavior, gives me some clarity, of ownership. That being said, how do I make it so that when it's run independently, this piece because what I'm thinking is I'll do add mediator on the application and then give it the assemblies of the other projects. And that will allow me to pull them all in and create one mediator in here rather than having each one of these do this. But I don't think it's necessarily this that triggers the compilation. Well, one way to find out, if I go to query and I go here and I comment out this build, does it remove? Is it purely that does that? Okay, that got rid of that. What happens if I put the source generator on here? What happens? The problem is then I need a conditional include of that. See, that created a mediator, but what did it create is the question. That might have worked. Let's see. So is it where I add the source, the source generator that counts, not the actual thing? But the problem is though, I'd have to I'd have to conditionally include the mediator source generators on the APIs if they're being run independently. So that would be a bit of a challenge. And thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Let's see what happens now. Oh, we got to our breakpoint. Oh, we got an error still. No handle registered for fetch all games query. Well, hold on. We did see the others add the mediator, so hold on. I just removed that line, didn't I? Let's make sure that doesn't actually have an impact on... Yeah, you see that doesn't add. So do I add the packages? That doesn't add mediator either. Packages, that adds very little. Entity Framework Core. Why do you have so little in you? That's the problem. Why do you have only fast endpoints? Why do you not have EF or any of that? Or is that just because it's a leftover now? That might be just a leftover. Do you know? No, I was going to say, that'd be awesome if you had to tell me it's not used. So do you have application dependencies, .NET packages, source generator? Hold on, that just told me it's going to remove the last one. Let's see. Let's have a look to see if this generated anything else. Maybe removing that add mediator caused a problem. Worry about that in a second. Fetch all games. That looks like that's adding it. So it might be that just adding the source generator here picks up all the mediator stuff anyway, and when it runs it, it works. But if I run it independently, I'll get the same API endpoint. Testing this is going to be really, really difficult, and I'm not going to worry too much about that sort of stuff on stream. But hey, can I run the game API? Can I run the query API? Can I run them separately and still have the behavior there? Is going to be a challenge. Primarily because I'm going to just have to make sure the configurations always align and do all those sorts of things. That might be a good use of our friend the AI if it can analyze things properly. So still an error. Is it the same error? No handle registered, but we saw it. We did see it in the list of mediator generated stuff. So that's sad. Oh, we didn't. We had fetch all games registered. And there's Virtual Games Query. So it is in there. That's interesting. I'd ask if anyone else has done this, but I don't get the feeling that there's a lot of people that do this sort of stuff with Mediator. Unless you have tried it, Mr. Anhorn. To go through all those. So again, it might seem like a lot of overkill. You know, I've got a lot of projects, I've got a lot of moving parts. It's organization to me. This makes sense. What are you trying to do? I do not. I do some not so standard stuff in it. I'm building out the modular monolith. So I'm building 4 different APIs, and I'm combining them into one API just purely through configuration. And it's built. I've added the source generator for Mediator on this one, and it's generated that the lookup by the looks of it for the types. So it should, in theory, work. But it's not. It's telling me it's not registered. Oh. Yeah. No handle registered for message type fetch or games query, but it is in there. Because each module is essentially adding Mediator itself. But the Mediator generated by this is registering all the types. Fetch all games. So the type and the query are registered there. I did not, but you can't do that, can you? Oh, you mean add Mediator in here? But that's a conflict. That's a conflict now. It's ambiguous because this Mediator. I see what you're saying. So how do I define that? Because it's built the 4th one now, yeah. So how do I make it use this version of Mediator? Can you do that for a method? Using add Mediator. I don't think you can. Is application. But you are right. That would add this Mediator as the version, right? So having not done this before, this is I'm not sure how this works with subprojects. Well, again, that's why I'm learning, right? How do I specify a particular method? Feels like there is a step to it, so lib packages. I can add the assemblies in here, but then I have to basically exclude them so I'd have to add a flag or something to say I'm building in a specific mode. Because I could add a preprocessor directive to exclude those add mediators, and that would work. But this would, if I can. So if I have. Because if I did in here, if I do if run um is it independent or independent? Multiple projects are not supported. Boo. So they never tackled it. Okay, so I think let's have a look. So if we do this, does that still give me an ambiguous? Does that still give me 3 ambiguous or 4 still? Because add mediator is still added by each one. Hi, Minutes. How you doing? I'm on 3-0. I'm on 3-0. I can do I can do that. It's just again, it's not that does it, is it? How you doing, Minutes? Yeah. But it's the if I remove the source generators from here, then that won't be possible because if I remove that, yeah, that removes the add mediator there. At the office, what can I say? You can access the add mediator extension directly if you know the class name, as in add mediator. Not sure if that's the actual class name. But the problem is, I want to have what I'm trying to attain is the ability to run Games API independently if I choose. So splitting them out again or running them for just pure debugging independently is my desired goal. So I want both worlds. So the problem is because I had the source. So if I go back here now, that obviously isn't there now. So let's do it this way. Let's remove them for right this second. So query application dependencies, projects assembly. Sorry, no, Dingleberry source generator. Let's remove it. We'll prove it works as one, right? And we'll work backwards rather than going through, and that'll break that. So query application, price chart application. I don't have it yet, so that doesn't matter. IGDB application. This does matter. Yes. Well, they have an API. I'm adding the API into each. They wouldn't have different host projects. They can actually have the same project. Just when you include it as a library, you add the modular extensions, which gives you include IGDB API, which removes all the fluff around. But this still calls the include by default. So this just adds fast endpoints and stuff when it's run that way. So that should now remove any duplication there. So builder.services, add mediator. Actually, it should have no ambiguity. Options goes to options dot. So you don't want to leak that you're using the mediator by the project. Yeah. So I want to be able to run mediator as a whole, but then be able to have each individual project. So essentially adding a conditional, I don't mind adding a preprocessor, but I would add a condition. The problem is when you add the library, the NuGet package, that's, when you get the source generator and it kicks in automatically. Just by virtue of adding the source generator package. So what we might try afterwards is try playing with the preprocessor, and if that doesn't add the mediator, that would be great. You need to pass in the options.assemblies to the add mediator if it's there. That is. Well, the mediator that it should add because if the add mediator method basically includes that piece. So let's see what that does. Network request failed. Well, it helps if you run the project, doesn't it? You kids in your mediator pan. Oh, source generator, where are you? What? What are you wearing on? Literally never seen it outside C#. Unless you're on your app that you're working on. Thank you. Let's install that. I like the pattern. I like using, well, not the mediator pattern specifically. I like the library, and I haven't got central package management. Is it that one? No. .NET Tool run. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. What am I doing? Oh. How I use tools. No. So it's that side. No. It's that side of that. I'm learning something from you. What would that be? How not to write code? How you doing today? .NET Tool run. Yeah. .NET Tool -G list. Okay, so it doesn't work that way. So list. So we do run dash that's G. Run dash G central package converter. Cannot find a tool in the manifest. .NET Tool dash G. Does it not matter about the G? What am I doing wrong here? Oh. There you go. That's better. Like, run is not a thing. Central package management is a tool that can run. Restore failed. Cannot create build. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just breaking things all over the place today. Upgrade. That looks like the app host versioning. All this broke. So somewhere in there, it broke the Aspire package versions. Yep. Manage NuGet packages. See there, say 0. Let's see if it'll upgrade independently. Nope. Package host. So all this broke because the central package management did not upgrade the right things there, or it thinks it's got zeros in there. So let's do this. Packages. It won't remove it because it can't do it, but it won't add it because it can't. Let's remove that. Yes. And app host. Yep. Well, let's add them back in. Aspire.hosting. Does it add it as an implicit package? Yes, it does. There we go. That's fine. Those should be there. Interesting. Let's build. Okay. We'll see if it runs. So all I'm trying to do right now is see if I can get the app up and running with only one mediator reference in the entire application. then I'll worry about what it would mean to break out those individual packages. Whether I need to add the explicit assemblies, we'll find out about it in a second, because the code gen does build a mediator that has all those references. So I don't see why it wouldn't. Invalid object name query.publisher. That's quite interesting, because I do not have... I do have publishers. So that actually failed on a whole different thing. Game, publisher, infrastructure configurations. If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you are more than welcome to share. What do you mean not present? So this failed on the query. This got to the handle. This worked as far as executing the query. I mean, didn't get very far, but yeah. If you are interested as well, there is a Discord attached to the stream. You're more than welcome to ask questions or share projects you're working on if you want other people to give feedback. It's not the most active Discord in the world, but it is there if you are interested. And all past videos are available on YouTube. So all the stuff I've been working on this project is of late in its own playlist on YouTube, and you can go and see that. Also, my main project, Liquid Sky, our project Liquid Sky, is a larger project than this one. However, that is not open source. Why is that? It's going to bug me now. Invalid object name queried up. Oh, publisher. That should have told me everything I needed to know. Publishers. What is making... That clearly says to table pub... Oh. Let's just make double sure that we didn't do the same thing for platform. We copied and pasted. That would be why that didn't work. Now, I'm not expecting miracles here. I'm not expecting... Oh, come on. Oh, dear. Now this one's gone wonky. There you go. Source generator 00000. All these went wonky as well. So IGB API and Games API. I've had mixed results with central package management, if I'm honest. Once it's working, it seems to be working fine. But this onboarding of it is a little bit more terrifying because you've got to kind of keep track of references. Oh, it broke everything. There's probably something simpler here, but I'm just not messing around. I'm just going to remove everything and then... Interesting that it worked first time and then the second time was like, no, everything's broken. This isn't the end of the world. This can be fixed. And it's not actually creating that many errors, if I'm honest. That is getting worse, isn't it? That's not actually getting better. It's opening up a can of worms. iCurrent user service. Not sure why you'd be broken, but that's fine. So central package management should mean that even if I add this in one package, it becomes available for all. Why? Why? You can't do it this way. This is still going to fail because everything else is broken still. That's why. Okay, well, I just need to go through those, clear up these things. I could potentially look at the central package. Directory.packages. Why is the directory.packages broken? Interesting. Look at the structure. I thought it was... It's props, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So, Notepad. Oh, so according to that, nothing's working. Ah, that'll help. So, something is going wrong there. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, it's 9:01. I need to go and get ready for work. Who is streaming? You're very welcome. Appreciate everyone hanging out today. Appreciate the chat. Thank you very much. I will be back on Wednesday this week, maybe Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I do have doctors on Friday. So, we're gonna go raid Anna. Anna is working on the Markdown editor. It's always an interesting time going visit Anna. Bit of chaos, bit of awesome development happening over there. I'm going to continue to get this cleaned up. Basically, once the NuGet packages work, I'm going to focus more on getting the modular component working before I worry too much about fixing the mediator problem. Getting the application up and running and showing games is my priority, because then I can move on to the next phase, which is getting all those statistics in there and then deploying the site, and then I can work on what comes next. So, yeah. Yeah. So let's raid Anna. I'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And I will see you again soon. Bye all.